They said gold could heal anything. It shone like the sun, refused to rust, never decayed. Surely, they thought, whatever kept gold immortal could do the same for the human body. And so began one of the strangest obsessions in royal history, when Europe's queens began to drink gold, not as a symbol of wealth, but as medicine. One of them, history whispers, took that faith too far. She believed gold would keep her young forever. Instead, it killed her. Alchemy and the golden cure in the late Middle Ages. Alchemy was half science, half religion, and half wishful thinking, which in Europe was good enough. While most alchemists were trying to turn lead into gold, a few promised something greater, to turn gold into life. They called it aurum, potable, drinkable gold. The recipe varied from court to court. Some mixed ground gold with honey and herbs. Others dissolved it in acid and wine. And for the right price, you could buy a vial of it from any number of court physicians who promised that one sip would restore youth, heal the heart, and banish corruption from the blood. To the medieval mind, it made perfect sense. Gold was pure, untarnished by time or decay. Why wouldn't that purity cleanse the body too? The queen who drank the sun among the wealthy and the desperate, aurum potable became the elixir of choice, and no one was more desperate to stop time than royalty. The woman most often blamed, or pitied, for this obsession was Elizabeth of Habsburg, Queen of Poland in the 16th century. She was known for her beauty, pale skin, calm demeanor, and the kind of stillness that portraits turn into sainthood. But behind closed doors, she suffered from exhaustion, fainting fits, and crippling anxiety about aging. Her court physicians offered her a cure, gold. Every morning, they stirred tiny flakes of it into warm wine, claiming it would preserve her complexion and extend her years. At banquets, she'd raise a golden goblet, and the glitter inside wasn't reflection. It was part of her daily ritual. To her guests, it was awe-inspiring. To her servants, it was terrifying, because every sip made her weaker. When science and magic shared a cup to understand how this could happen, you have to remember what medicine looked like in the Middle Ages. Doctors were often alchemists in disguise, men in embroidered robes surrounded by crucibles, vials, and fumes. They mixed potions in golden cups under painted ceilings, reciting prayers as they stirred. Every experiment was half chemistry, half spell, and aurum potable was their proudest invention. They believed gold's incorruptibility could purify the soul, that it could literally make a person closer to God. To drink, it wasn't vanity. It was devotion, which made it all the more dangerous, because you can't reason with faith, especially when it glitters. The taste of immortality records from apothecaries and court inventories show that drinkable gold was a genuine royal expense. It was prescribed for fainting, aging, melancholy, even heartbreak. But preparing it was almost comic in its extravagance. An ounce of gold might be ground for hours by hand with honey and herbs. Servants would scrape the flecks in a fine powder, then dissolve them in vinegar or aqua regia, a powerful acid known to eat through almost anything. The result was a shimmering amber tonic that looked miraculous, until you remembered it was made of metal and acid. For most nobles, it was a luxury fad. They took it occasionally in small doses. But for one queen, it became obsession. She didn't just drink it for health. She drank it for youth, the one thing her crown couldn't buy. The beauty that wouldn't fade. The chronicles say she was beautiful, almost unervingly so. Her skin pale as ivory, her eyes bright, her voice serene. But beauty in the Middle Ages wasn't just vanity, it was virtue. The body reflected the soul, or so they believed. A flawless complexion meant divine favor. Wrinkles, fatigue, and age were signs of sin, decay, and death. And for a queen, that was unacceptable. She couldn't grow old. Not before her people, not before God, not before her husband, who ruled half of Europe's alliances by sight alone. So, like the philosophers promised, she swallowed sunlight. And slowly, that sunlight burned her from the inside. The glow of poison, it didn't happen all at once. At first, she glowed. Her skin shone faintly under candlelight. Her hair, caught the glimmer of gold dust. Visitors described her as radiant, like dawn reflected in glass. But after months, the glow faded. Then the pain began. Her stomach ached constantly. Her eyes dulled. Her hands trembled when she lifted her cup. Physicians called it humoral imbalance. They prescribed more gold. And she obeyed, because to stop would mean admitting failure, that the gods had lied, that beauty was mortal after all. The golden death, the end came quietly. One morning, she couldn't rise from bed. Her pulse was slow, her lips dry, her veins faintly yellow beneath the skin. She whispered that she could feel the metal inside her. The physicians wrote that she died in radiance. Centuries later, when scientists tested remains believed to be hers, they found something extraordinary: microscopic gold deposits in her bones and tissues. The stories, it turned out, weren't metaphors. She really had turned herself to gold. The cult of the golden body, even after her death, the trend didn't stop. Across Europe, nobles continued to drink gold, sometimes mixed with powdered pearls, coral, and gemstones. In France, Diane de Poitiers, the mistress of King Henry II, drank gold elixirs to stay young for her lover. And when her bones were analyzed centuries later, they too were laced with gold. She had died at 66, still beautiful, still poisoned. Gold has gotten away, the gold did what it promised. It preserved them, not in life, but in legend. They became immortal through irony. Worshippers of eternal youth who found eternity in death. Because that's what alchemy really was, not chemistry, but theology disguised as science. It wasn't about understanding nature. It was about defying it. And for a while, it almost worked. Section 1, closing, so here's the scene. A queen in a candlelit chamber, lifting a golden cup. Her alchemist kneeling before her, whispering that she holds the sun itself. And as she drinks, her reflection shimmers, radiant, regal, doomed. In Section 2, we'll watch her beauty unravel. We'll see how the very thing she worshipped, the gold that never rusts, devoured her body from within. And how, in the end, her story became a warning to all who confuse wealth with eternity. Because gold doesn't age, but the hands that hold it always do. By the time the queen realized something was wrong, it was already too late. She could feel it in her pulse, slow, uneven like a clock losing time. In the mirror, her skin no longer glowed. It shimmered faintly, metallic and pale. The miracle that had promised her eternal youth was slowly turning her into metal. The body of gold modern science calls it chronic heavy metal poisoning. But to her physicians, it was divine mystery, a transmutation of humors. The gold she had swallowed, day after day, didn't leave her body. It gathered, tiny fragments lodging in the walls of her intestines, liver, and kidneys. Her organs, once soft and pink, began to stiffen. Her blood thickened. Her nerves misfired. Her attendants wrote that her eyes dulled, her voice grew quiet, and her body took on a peculiar yellow radiance. She looked like a statue of herself. And yet, the court still praised her glow. They called it the beauty of the divine. No one dared to say what everyone saw, that the queen was dying slowly, beautifully, and horribly. The elixir of power to her alchemists, her suffering wasn't failure, it was progress. Alchemy wasn't a science built on mercy. It was built on transformation through pain. They believed that metal and man shared the same path. Both had to be purified through fire and suffering before reaching perfection. So when the queen's health faltered, they saw proof that the gold was working, that her body was undergoing divine refinement. They gave her stronger doses. Her cup grew heavier each day. Vanity as religion, it's easy to judge her now, a queen destroying herself for beauty. But in her world, beauty wasn't vanity. It was salvation. In medieval theology, physical perfection reflected moral purity. A flawless face meant divine grace. A decaying one sin. For a woman whose power rested on divine image, aging wasn't just cosmetic, it was spiritual failure. And so, she drank her faith in daily doses. The decay of heaven by the time the gold reached her bones. The queen's condition had become unholy. She slept for days at a time, her body cold to the touch. Her skin cracked at the corners of her lips, glittering faintly under candlelight. She smelled faintly of metal, sharp and sweet. Her court still dressed her in white silk and jewels. They powdered her skin to hide the pallor, braided her hair with gold threads. From a distance, she looked perfect, the eternal woman the alchemists had promised. Up close, she looked like death gilded. The queen's last supper one night, during a feast in her honor, she raised her goblet but couldn't drink. Her hand trembled too much. She smiled faintly, whispered a prayer, and set the cup down for the last time. Her servants helped her to her chambers, where she spent her final days drifting in and out of delirium, muttering about sunlight, purity, and the taste of gold. When she died, the physicians claimed her body did not decay in the normal manner. They called it divine preservation. In truth, it was chemistry, what science found centuries past. Her story turned to legend. Then, when scientists examined her supposed remains, whether Elizabeth of Habsburg or Diane de Poitiers, they found something astonishing: gold. Lots of it. Traces of aurum potabile had embedded deep within her bones and teeth, proof that she had consumed it regularly for years. Her death was a myth. It was metallurgy. She had literally turned herself into what she worshipped. The golden illusion in her own time, people said she'd achieved immortality. Her body didn't rot as fast as others. Her hair still gleamed faintly under candlelight. But it wasn't eternal youth. It was poison masquerading as beauty, the ultimate metaphor for empire, wealth, and vanity. Gold never tarnishes, but the humans who chase it always do. Gold fever across Europe, her death didn't stop the trend. It made it fashionable. If gold killed a queen, surely that meant it worked, or at least that it was powerful enough to die for. In the courts of France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire, nobles began adding flakes of gold to wine and pastries. Apothecaries sold elixir of the sun in crystal vials at outrageous prices. The same substance that killed her became a status symbol, because even death couldn't compete with the beauty of gold. The alchemist's dream alchemy promised eternal life, but its real goal was something else: to make spirit visible. They believed every metal had a soul, and that by transforming matter, they could reveal God's perfection hidden in the world. So when gold entered the queen's veins, her alchemists believed she was ascending, merging body and divinity. And in a way, she did. Her body became a vessel for faith, obsession, and death. A perfect symbol of the era that birthed her, radiant, refined, and rotting from within. The modern echoes centuries later. The world still chases versions of her elixir. Collagen serums, 24-karat facials, detox teas, and edible gold desserts all promise the same thing: that wealth can buy what time takes away. The bottles have changed, but the illusion hasn't. We still gild decay and call it luxury. And somewhere, the ghost of that queen still raises her cup, smiling with the same tragic grace, still believing she's drinking eternity. The lesson in her death, in the end: the queen didn't die of vanity. She died of faith in the idea that perfection could be swallowed. The gold didn't just kill her, it revealed her. Because when you strip away the crown, the marble, the perfume, all that remains is the same fragile thing gold can't imitate: a human body that breaks, burns, and fades. The rest was just decoration. Final closing. So here's what her story tells us: that immortality always comes disguised as something beautiful. That power doesn't make people invincible, only slower to realize they're dying. And that every empire, no matter how golden, eventually learns the same lesson. The metal doesn't decay, but the hands that hold it always do.